I need you to pay very close attention to this one, because what I am about to tell you was not an accident. It was not a reaction. It was not the kind of thing that happens in the heat of the moment, when emotions take over and people do things they later regret. What happened at that dinner table was planned, carefully, over 6 weeks, by a woman who had decided, quietly, completely, without telling a single person, that she was done being underestimated. My name is Victoria, and on a Friday evening in March, my husband of 9 years invited me to dinner at a restaurant I had never been to. He was unusually attentive that week. Flowers on Tuesday, a compliment about a dress I had owned for 3 years, the particular warmth of someone who is managing their own guilt with gestures. I noticed. I said nothing, because I already knew what Friday dinner was for. Let me go back 6 weeks. 6 weeks before that Friday, I had found something on my husband's laptop. Not deliberately. I had been looking for a document we both used. A shared file, something entirely mundane. What I found instead was a folder. Inside that folder were documents, legal documents, drafted by a law firm I did not recognize, addressed to my husband, outlining the terms of a divorce settlement that had been, very carefully, very specifically, constructed to leave me with as little as possible. I sat in front of that laptop for a long time. Then I closed the folder, closed the laptop, put it exactly where I had found it, and I picked up my phone and called the best divorce attorney in the city. If you are already on the edge of your seat, stay with me. Subscribe to this channel right now, because what I did in those 6 weeks, and what happened at that dinner table, is something I have never told anyone completely, until today. The attorney's name was Margaret Chen. She had been practicing family law for 22 years. She had a reputation, among people who knew these things, for being the person you wanted in your corner when the other side had been planning longer than you realized. I told her everything. The folder, the documents, the settlement terms my husband had arranged without my knowledge. The 9 years of marriage, my career slowed to support his, the financial decisions made jointly that had quietly, over time, shifted more assets into his name than mine. She listened. She asked precise, careful questions. She took notes. At the end of 2 hours, she looked at me across her desk and said, "They've been planning this for approximately 4 months. Their position is not as strong as they think it is. Would you like to know why?" I said yes. She told me. What followed was 6 weeks of the most focused, disciplined work I have ever done. Documents gathered, financial records compiled, valuations obtained, a picture built carefully, completely, of what 9 years of marriage actually looked like when examined correctly, by the right person with the right expertise. I went home every evening. I made dinner. I asked about his day. I was, from the outside, entirely normal. Inside, I was building something he had no idea existed. The flowers arrived on Tuesday of the 6th week. I put them in a vase and thanked him and felt, for the first time since finding that folder, something close to calm, because I knew what Friday was. He had made the reservation himself. I found the confirmation in his email, which he had left open on the shared computer in a moment of carelessness that told me everything. I needed to know about how thoroughly he had underestimated me. A restaurant, Friday evening, 7:30 p.m. I called Margaret Chen. "He's made his move," I said. "Friday dinner." There was a brief pause. "Would you like company?" she said. I smiled for the first time in 6 weeks. "I would," I said, "but not at my table." I arrived at the restaurant at 7:15 p.m. Margaret Chen was already there, seated at a small table near the window, close enough, with a clear sight line to where I would be sitting. She had a glass of water and a leather document folder, and the particular composure of someone who has done this many times and finds it, if not exactly enjoyable, deeply satisfying. We did not acknowledge each other. My husband arrived at 7:28. He was dressed carefully. The good suit, the watch I had given him for our 5th anniversary. He kissed my cheek. He ordered wine. He made conversation about his week, with the ease of a man who believes everything is proceeding according to his plan. I let him talk. The food came, we ate. He refilled my glass. And then, at approximately 8:15 p.m., with the particular timing of a man who has rehearsed this, he reached into his jacket pocket and placed an envelope on the table between us. "There's something we need to talk about," he said. I looked at the envelope, then at him. "Okay," I said. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said. "About where we are, and I think," he paused, the practiced pause of someone delivering a speech. "I think we both know things haven't been right for a long time. I had my attorney draw up some papers. I think it's the cleanest way to handle things." He slid the envelope toward me. I did not pick it up. "I've actually already seen those," I said. He blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The folder on your laptop," I said. 6 weeks ago, I found it." The color left his face in a way I had not quite anticipated, all at once, completely like something being switched off. "Victoria!" "I'd like to introduce you to someone," I said. I raised my hand slightly, a small, calm gesture. Margaret Chen stood up from her table by the window. She walked to ours. She placed her own folder on the table, considerably thicker than his envelope, and extended her hand to my husband. "Margaret Chen," she said. "I represent Victoria. We've been preparing our response to your filing for the past 6 weeks. I believe you'll find our position somewhat more comprehensive than you were expecting." My husband looked at Margaret, at the folder, at me. I picked up my wine glass. I took a small sip. "You should probably call your attorney," I said. "Tonight, if possible." What followed? The legal proceedings, the discovery process, the moment when my husband's team realized exactly how thoroughly and completely we had documented 9 years of marriage. I will summarize simply. It did not go the way he had planned. The settlement we reached, after 4 months of proceedings, reflected the actual reality of what 9 years of partnership looked like when examined correctly. Not the version he had constructed. The real one. I walked out of that process with what was fair. Not more, not less. Exactly what 9 years deserved. My husband, I heard from people we once shared, had some difficulty accepting how thoroughly he had miscalculated. That is, perhaps, the most honest consequence of underestimating. Someone who has decided to stop being underestimated. Margaret Chen sent me flowers when it was over. A small bouquet with a card that said, "Well done. Stay sharp." I kept the card. Here is what 6 weeks in a dinner table and a leather folder taught me. The most powerful position you can be in is the one nobody knows you are in. The person who plans quietly, prepares completely, and arrives at the table already ready. That person does not need to raise their voice. They simply need to raise their hand. My husband asked me to sign papers at dinner. The lawyer next to me was mine, and I had been ready for 6 weeks. If this story reached you, if it opened something, please share it right now. And subscribe to this channel. Every week I bring you stories about the moments when someone decides to stop being underestimated. You deserve to hear them,